What's up, Guardians, and welcome back, Hunters. I'm Profane, thanks for checking out the video. We're about to see a big shift in the proverbial sandbox of Destiny, so today we're going to be taking a look at a few top tier builds that Hunters will want to turn to get through some of the more difficult content that Edge of Fate throws at you, like the Legendary Campaign and the higher tiers of Kepler. You're still going to find exotics like the Foe Tracers, the Celestial Nighthawk, and even the Star Eaters to be the best exotics to utilize in terms of overall damage. But in terms of survivability, crowd control, and overall performance, you'll want to lean towards other options. So we've got 3 incredible builds that will help you get through anything that this new expansion throws at you. And before we get started, if you do end up enjoying the video, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated and both really help out when it comes to the algorithm. The first build that we'll look at revolves around the Mask of Bakris. This is getting some key reworks in Edge of Fate, which will make this an incredible option to use with the standard Arc and Stasis subclasses. But to get the maximum benefit out of this exotic's intrinsic perks, we'll be turning to the Prismatic subclass. When an Arc or Stasis super is equipped, our standard class ability will be replaced with a shift. And what's new about this is that when we do shift, we'll gain an 11-second buff called Light Shift. When it's active, it provides a bonus in damage that's granted to Arc and Stasis weapons, and the Lord of Wolves. This starts as a 10% increase in damage, but it can build up to a 20 and 30% bonus as you perform additional shifts, which you'll be able to do much more often, because when Light Shift is active, weapon kills are going to provide you with a substantial chunk of bonus class energy. So the more weapon kills you secure, the more class energy you get, and in turn, your weapons become empowered, making you more efficient, which will lead to even more ability energy and prolonged damage bonuses. And all we really need to do to optimize the use of this exotic is to incorporate a heavy mix of Stasis and Arc weapons. With its ability to deal both Stasis and Arc damage, the Graviton Spike will be an extraordinary exotic to use. There's also exotics like the Risk Runner, Aegir's Scepter, Conditional Finality, the Thunderlord, and Queensbreaker that would all benefit from the use of this exotic. We are using the Prismatic subclass because we'll gain the advantages of Radiance, which gives our weapons a 20% bonus in damage, further increasing their efficiency. This also gives us access to fragments like Facet of Hope, so whenever we have an elemental buff active, we'll be able to sustain a 40% bonus to the regeneration rate of our class energy. And when we have 2 buffs active, like Amplified and Radiance, then Facet of Hope will provide a 60% increase. We're pairing Bakris with Winter Shroud, so that when we use our shift, we'll slow nearby enemies. It also provides us with a 3-second buff, granting us with a 300% bonus to the base regeneration rate of our class energy, so every time we perform our shift, we're regenerating extra energy. This will only provide 2 fragment slots though, but another benefit of this aspect is that when we do activate our class ability, we'll gain a 50% bonus in damage resistance, so we're increasing this exotic's efficiency as well as boosting our own survival. And with Threaded Spectre equipped, we'll give our enemies something to focus on after we shift, making it easier for us to mow through those enemies with our weapons. Even though we have a lot of sources providing us with bonus ability energy, when it comes to armor stats with this build, we're going to want to focus towards class energy, and to make our weapons as effective as possible, we'll want to focus towards our weapon stats also. And I would honestly advise to put more focus into weapons than you do class energy, because if we can push our weapon stat to as much as 200, we would maintain a 15% bonus in primary and secondary weapon damage. In addition to the exotic weapons that I mentioned earlier, legendary weapons that come with Headstone or Chill Clip would be great to use with this build, and so would those that come with Jolting Feedback or Volt Shot. Weapons that come with traits like Strategist or Attrition Orbs would also be great to use to be able to improve our ability uptime and maintain fonts. Out of all the new Hunter builds that will be available in Edge of Fate, I'm most excited about this one because the synergy of this exotic is absolutely incredible, and it should lead to some standout performance. And to make a copy of this build, or any of the others that we mentioned, be sure to check out the Mobalytics and dim links down below. Moving on to our second Hunter build, we are looking at a Stasis build, utilizing the Mask of Fealty, and this is going to be able to synergize very well with several new artifact mods. It could easily be used with the Prismatic subclass, but since our artifact provides us with the ability to trigger Radiance, we can stick with Stasis and create a lot of powerful synergy. Withering Blades will create small stasis crystals whenever they bounce. A small amount of melee energy will be refunded when the Withering Blades bounce, and crystals that are broken by Withering Blades will release a spread of 3 more blades, with each of those blades having the potential to create their own stasis crystals. What this is going to do for us is provide us with an excellent source of crowd control and survivability, because we'll be able to keep everything slowed and frozen while we profit off of increased ability uptime, increased weapon damage, and bonus damage resistance thanks to Frost Armor. By using the Fever and Chill artifact mod, we'll be able to gain radiance whenever landing consecutive precision hits, but that's only when using solar weapons. And by landing precision hits with stasis weapons, we'll build up stacks of Frost Armor. So it's going to be in our best interest to use a mix of both energies. This is why I would recommend pairing solar weapons like the Icebreaker, the Vex Mythoclast, the Sunshot, or Hierarchy of Needs, with stasis weapons like the Horror Story, Tanasha's Mastery, Prolonged Engagement, or the Lost Signal. By utilizing the Whisper of Realm fragment, we can increase how many stacks of Frost Armor we can have active, which will increase its effectiveness to as much as a 50% reduction from incoming damage. And because of Whisper of Fractures, we'll build up Frost Armor even faster by shattering frozen targets with our Withering Blades. Since this build creates the potential to have Radiance and Frost Armor active simultaneously, I would recommend using the Shield Crush artifact mod. That way we'll gain a 25% increase to the damage and regeneration of our melee and grenade energies. And since we'll create a ton of stasis shards with this build, we could give our stasis weapons even more of a bonus in damage by utilizing the Elemental Overdrive mod. Our 2 main stats to focus on with this build will be weapons and melee. Shield Crush will provide us with 25% increased melee damage, but if we could push our melee stat to 200, we would have a 30% increase to the base damage of our Withering Blades, and we'd provide a substantial improvement to their cooldown and regeneration. And if we don't have the greatest armor stats to work with, we can use armor fonts to make up the difference. If you want to know all that there is to know about the new armor system, then be sure to check out the D2 Compendium spreadsheet, which I'll leave a link for down below. But there's also an incredible armor planner spreadsheet that was put together by the Engineeeer, so be sure to check that out to make your build planning a lot easier. And be sure to check out the Engineeeer here on YouTube. And now we move on to the final build of today's video, and this is a build that revolves around the Cyrtarachne's facade. I find this to be an incredible exotic to use with Strand, and I think that with some of the new artifact mods, a Strand variant of this build will be an extremely powerful option. But when you take Prismatic and combine the Spirit of Cyrtarachne with the Spirit of Inmost, the combination creates a perpetual loop of rapid ability uptime. And by utilizing a mix of light and dark based energies, you'll have Transcendency recharging at an increased rate, which will make it even easier to spam our abilities, and you'll be able to sustain Woven Mail for as long as you're engaged in combat. One of the biggest standout additions to this build will be the Shield Crush artifact mod. Since we'll have a constant supply of Amplified and Woven Mail active, we'll be able to cash in on a 25% bonus in damage and a 25% bonus in regeneration that's granted to our grenade and melee abilities. We've also got new artifact mods like Tangled Web, which creates a suspending detonation when Strand debuffed enemies are defeated. Most every enemy we come into contact with will be severed or unraveled, so by adding the option of suspensions into this build will greatly improve our ability to manage the battlefield. This has been an extremely powerful build for several months now, and it's only going to get better here in Edge of Fate, especially now that Ascension will work as intended with armor mods like Reaper and Heart of Inmost Light. Ascension's only going to provide 2 fragments now, but with Threaded Spectre, we'll have a total of 5 fragments. And since Fever and Chill provides us with Radiance, we don't have to use Facet of Dawn, as long as we use solar weapons, which means we'll still be able to reap the benefits of increased ability uptime thanks to fragments like Facet of Hope and Facet of Balance. There's a number of formidable exotic weapons that we could pair with this build, like the Traveler's Chosen, the Final Warning, Monte Carlo, or even Buried Bloodline. But when it comes to legendary weapons, we want to focus on those that come with traits like Pugilist, Grave Robber, Strategist, and Demolitionist, which will improve the uptime of our abilities even further. There's a lot of directions that we could go with our character stats with this build, but I think it's going to be in our best interest to focus towards our grenade and class energies. This way we can improve the uptime of our Woven Mail, Ascensions, and Threaded Spectre, which is what this build is all about. And like we've mentioned with the other builds, if we're low in any one department, we can always use armor fonts. And with that, we've now covered 3 incredible hunter builds that will bring you a ton of success throughout the campaign and even the higher end content that Edge of Fate will bring. I'd love to hear your thoughts about these builds and what builds you'll be using in Edge of Fate. Let us know down in the comments below. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.